Hey guys, well, at long last, here it is, the mighty Trickfish Bullhead 3K. 2500 watts times 2 at 4 ohms, dual inputs and outputs, variable high pass and low pass filters, 13 pounds. This amp really represents a whole lot of research and design work with the goal to create an amplifier that offers something no other amp out there offers. On the front, we have our award-winning Mike Pope designed Bullhead preamp with shelving, bass and treble controls, and dual mid-range EQ. All the controls have the switchable EQ points for each frequency. You'll notice here on the top left the variable high pass and low pass filter circuits. These offer steep cuts that start at the extreme ends of the frequency spectrum and let you roll off that steep cut inward from the edges to taste, while keeping everything inside of those points unchanged. You can also turn off both of these filters with these toggle switches. If you're familiar with our signal filter pedal, and we are so psyched that so many of you guys have been really loving that one, the 3K basically has an onboard version of that. And if you haven't tried a high pass or low pass filter, in addition to your normal EQ, I highly recommend checking one out. Now, here's where things get interesting. The Bullhead 3K has dual, ultra-high powered Class D amplifiers made by Pascal, the same company from Denmark that makes the power modules we use in our Bullhead 1K and Mini 500 amps. Just much more powerful. Each side puts out 1500 watts at 8 ohms, or 2500 watts at 4 ohms. Yep, that is 5000 watts by way of two 4 ohm outputs. So here on the front, you have your standard main input, which feeds the Bullhead preamp in the familiar EQ section, and a master volume control, which feeds one or both of the amplifier outputs. On the back, you'll see input 2. This is a buffered 1/4 inch input for anything you want to plug in. It feeds its own power amplifier and has its own XLR DI output. Output 2 is controlled by this gain and master volume here on the front. Basically, the 3K can be configured in different ways that send power from one or both of the inputs to one or both of the amplifiers. At its simplest, the front input feeds both outputs, effectively giving you two channels that can each operate at a minimum of 4 ohms. Input 2 lets you plug in a second source, like a keyboard synth bass for example, the output of which can be routed to both outputs or just to output 2. This way you can have two cabinets on stage, one for your electric bass, one for your keyboard synth, each with its own gain, master volume control, and DI output. It's basically 2 amps in one when used this way. From here, it just gets really fun. You can think of the 3K as an all-in-one solution for a wet-dry or a clean-dirty rig, so you can plug your clean bass signal into the front of the amp, and you can run a pedal board into input 2, giving you separate cabinets for different signal chains. This opens up a ton of creative ways you can combine these sounds in a live setting. So for example, you can have a clean cab and a distorted or dirty cab, or you can have a clean solid state sound into input 1 and a tube preamp sound into input 2 that you can blend in separate cabinets. There's also a phase switch on the back in case one of the signals gets out of phase from the other, which is pretty handy given all the different signal routing possibilities. Now, why? Why? 3000 watts at 8 ohms? I can hear some guys now. Why in God's name would you need that much power? That looks cool if you want to blow up your cabinets. What speakers can even handle this much wattage? Fair questions. And to be honest, you're asking the wrong guy. I am the guy who ran a monster lead sled Crest power amp that put out 2000 watts for about a decade before my back finally had it. So here's what I have to say about this. The 3K is not about sheer volume. Personally, I'm not a really loud player. To me, this is all about headroom, quickness, note weight, and composure at volume. This amp just feels great. It has this effortless quality to it at any volume level. It's super nimble, it never breaks a sweat, it turns on a dime, and has that same quality that made me want to haul around a 60-pound boat anchor power amp for years. But thankfully, this one only weighs 13 pounds. And if you're worried about blowing up your cabinets that aren't rated for 2500 watts, because what cabinets are, honestly, again, you're talking to the wrong guy. I use that PA style power amp with a 112 cabinet for years. I didn't blow anything up because I had reasonable expectations. I wasn't trying to make my 112 perform like an 810 just because I had enough wattage to kill something. So I'm a big proponent of lots of headroom and common sense volume expectations. Again, it's just a feel thing, and once you experience it, you'll know what I'm talking about. The 3K has a really nice lightweight but heavy duty all metal enclosure. The combo speak-on 1/4 inch input connectors, I love those. They've saved my butt more than once when I brought the wrong speaker cable to the gig. The 3K ships with rack ears and comes with an optional available rack case, which is pretty sexy and nicely protective. List price, direct or from our dealer network, is $2,500, and pre-sales are happening now. The first batch will ship on September 1st.